Well, it's personal between me and you, and I'm going to do you some serious harm, you big stiff idiot.
The untouchable True School Sports Empire proudly presents something the boxing games are missing. Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands of True School Sports subscribers. Now, I did a video recently on why I think Terence Crawford will beat Errol Spence when and if that fight gets signed. I think it will happen this year. I'm being optimistic about it because I think the timing is great. The political BS has kind of been ironed out with Crawford being a free agent, with Spence cleaning up his proverbial side of the street. I think it will get done. But in this video right here, this is the one you guys probably want to watch because I've been very vocal about Spence Crawford a lot over the years, and this is going to be why Errol Spence can beat Terence Crawford. Now, when we talk about Errol Spence Jr., we're talking about a very good fighter, borderline a great fighter. This fight to me will prove actually a lot if he is a great fighter. I think he's very good. I don't think he's necessarily a great fighter. I don't throw that word around lightly, but Errol Spence Jr. had a great performance against Ugas, and he really showed a lot of the reasons why people rate him so highly again. And even for people like me who have been his detractors, it's almost got me like, man, like Errol Spence Jr. is back. Like, it's kind of like when obviously he's not Michael Jordan, but like when Michael Jordan came back to the NBA, it's like, oh, Michael Jordan is back, and it was kind of the same thing, with Errol Spence Jr.'s performance against Ugas. So we gotta talk about what makes Errol Spence Jr. a really good fighter. Unified champion with 3 belts, undefeated. U.S. Olympian. We gotta talk about what makes him a very dangerous fighter, in general, and what makes him dangerous against Terence Crawford, and what could he capitalize on. Now, Errol Spence Jr. One of the things that makes him great is his ability to control the pace of a fight. Errol Spence Jr. has a volume jab, one of the best jabs, not just in the welterweight division, but in the sport of boxing. And like the old saying says, a good right hand can take you on the block, but a good jab can take you on the world, or something like that. He's got a great jab, and he pumps it out there a lot. And what makes him a great fighter is the simple things. And at that world-class level, it's a lot of times it comes down to who does the simplest things better. And Errol Spence Jr. is probably one of, if not the best fighter in boxing at just simply keeping his hands up. When he throws, because he's a southpaw like me, so like when he throws a jab, he's not really into wasting movement, so he'll throw a jab and get that hand right back to his ear to block the shot. And that allows Errol Spence Jr. to jab in a way where he's confident and he's defensively responsible. And if you're the opponent and you're throwing these jabs, or you're trying to counter him, or you're trying to throw a hook or something like that, and this guy is just picking his shots off and he's not even really moving his head or his shoulders a lot, when the opponent misses punches, this creates a mental pressure, an indirect mental pressure and frustration. The longer it happens, there's more frustration, right? So Errol capitalizes on that because as he's picking shots off, throwing that volume jab, and then closing on the inside and then going to the body and pivoting off of it like we saw against Ugas, what happens is he begins to not necessarily he doesn't hurt. Sometimes he doesn't hurt you right away. He's just hurting you gradually. He's hurting you brick by brick, punch by punch, and he's picking up the pace a little bit more every single round. And boy, before you know it, it's the 7th round, the 6th round, the 8th round. You're huffing and puffing. You don't know what to do. You're running out of options. And then he really, really turns it up and takes you to those deep waters, and he drowns you. That's why I guess he calls himself the big fish. But how could this be exploited against a guy like Terence Crawford? Now, I think Terence Crawford is arguably the best fighter in the world, but we've seen some vulnerabilities in his last couple of fights. First and foremost, sometimes Terence Crawford, a lot of times, especially when he's a southpaw, Terence Crawford likes to kind of leave that hand a bit at the waist, and he likes to throw that up jab. He likes to throw the up jab a lot. So a lot of times he's relying on his reflexes and things like that. And the older you get, your reflexes aren't as good. So I think for Errol, especially in the early rounds where Crawford likes to kind of ease way into the fight, I think Errol he can have some success with that volume jab he likes to throw. And depending on how successful he is, that might even give him the time to plant his feet and start landing some big shots early to make those early investments to the body and take the gas out the tank. You know what I'm saying? So I love the style matchup. You know, as far as other things with Crawford, I mean, sometimes he could have lapses when he's on the move and looking to counterpunch himself, and sometimes he might. There's been a couple of times in fights where he's thrown punches from too far out and been countered with stuff like Kavaluskis, in many people's estimation, dropped him. Porter, you know, being as explosive as he was, he had a lot of success in the first 5 to 7 rounds of that fight. So the thing about Spence is he's gonna have about a good 4.5 round window to really impose himself on the fight, because you know Crawford is very smart at making adjustments. He can make these adjustments quickly, and if he gets you hurt, you might as well just start the bus and go home. But because of like Terence's tendencies as far as like how he likes to start off fights and making adjustments, there's gonna be a window for Errol Spence to hurt him and really impose himself on the fight. You know, Errol is known for great stamina, as is Crawford. I mean, Crawford fought Jose Benavidez Jr., who was a 6'1", I mean, what is he, like 6'1", tall, lanky, rangy welterweight, who was giving him problems due to his height and his range and how he used his height and his range. But Terence has shown the ability to be dangerous later on in fights. Same thing with Porter. Porter had things go his way early in the middle part of that fight, but Terence made the adjustment and eventually stopped him in the later rounds of that fight. So if Errol Spence Jr. goes into the fight with his game plan and takes that part of Terence Crawford into account, does it make him want to start off a bit early? You know, I don't know. But we might even see Errol Spence Jr. switch up the game plan a lot in the early stages of the fight. Maybe he relies a little bit less on that volume jab and tries to get into the kitchen, tries to get into the chest of Terence earlier and see if he's really as strong as he says he is. You know. But ultimately, like, look, Terence is a little older than Errol. Terence has still winning fights and looking impressive in how he's able to get the results, but there has been some signs of a bit of slipping from Terence Crawford. So and look, whether it's Gamboa, whether it's been you know Sean Porter, or I mean you can name them, you know, Gamboa, Porter, Kavaluskis, just the Kell Brook, even in the first 2 rounds. Like Terence Crawford, he's very good. He's a solid defensive fighter, but he ain't exactly Pernell Whitaker. One thing that Terence Crawford has about him that makes him great could also be a disadvantage in this fight. Terence Crawford loves to get in there. He loves to fight. He loves to mix it up. And fighting a bigger man like a guy that's bigger who cuts more weight to get down to 147. Fighting a guy like Errol Spence with the kind of range and ferocity that he loves to fight with, it could really play into Errol Spence's hands, because he'll be there to be hit. He will get hit a couple times, and then it's up to Crawford and Spence, for that matter, to make the adjustments necessary to win the fight. But you know, just being the fact that Terence can abandon defensive responsibility at times and really try to impose himself on the fight, that could be his ultimate undoing. And when you factor in that Spence has one of the most educated jabs in boxing, one of the best gas tanks in boxing, some of the best body punching in boxing, you factor all those things in, and it could be a fight where, you know, Terence plays his hand the wrong way, Errol gets him out of there before the championship round. So that's just my little assessment initially on why I think Errol can beat Crawford. He's a more than formidable opponent. He's could go in there and just really beat the shit out of him if Terence isn't careful. So that's my take. You guys can let me know yours in the comments down below. Make sure you guys take the time to subscribe. And like I say in every single one of these videos, you can love me or you can hate me. But I'm just a kid from Daniel. So until next time, take care, guys. Thank you for watching another video on True School Sports, the home of boxing. If you made it this far, do me a favor and do yourself a damn favor. Hit that subscribe button and surely you will not be disappointed. You know, True School Sports bringing you the latest and greatest, the untouchable, you know, boxing content, interviews, news videos, breakdowns, live fight reaction extravaganza. We've got a great community of people here, boxing fans all over the world, from America to the UK to Australia and on and on and on. So join the empire today. Hit that subscribe button. Take care and God.